All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking the architecture behind a truly transformative teaching model. It's called Partners in Learning. Look, if you've ever assigned a group project only to just stand there and watch one person do literally all the work while the rest of the group texts under the desk, well, you're absolutely in the right place. We're going to break down the exact framework you need to turn a passive room of listeners into a dynamic, highly cooperative community.
So it really all boils down to this one essential question that every single educator, trainer, or team leader constantly faces. How do we actually get everybody on board? We want to get away from those isolated, competitive classrooms where just a few loud voices dominate everything, right? Instead, we want to build an environment where every single person is engaged and pulling their own weight. And the source material we're looking at today gives us a beautifully structured, super effective answer to that exact challenge.
So here is our blueprint for today. We'll start with the foundation, move into the rules of engagement, break down the execution, and finally, check out the results.
All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the foundation, which is all about building the right social system. Now, looking at this, it's kind of like night and day, right? On the left, you've got your traditional setup. It's competitive, individualistic, and heavily teacher-centered. But the Partners in Learning ecosystem on the right, it is fundamentally democratic. It completely relies on a collaborative social system where learning actually happens through cooperation. You're usually starting this off in tight-knit groups of, say, 2 to 4 people. In this setup, mutual respect is basically the engine running the whole thing, and everyone shares joint responsibility. But here's the catch. To make that democratic social system actually work in real life, you need a really solid support system. You literally can't use individualistic tools for a collaborative job. The architecture here requires physical changes. Think paired seating arrangements and shared learning materials. It also relies heavily on structured frameworks like jigsaw or numbered heads. The physical environment itself has to structurally support communication. Moving right along to section 2, the rules of engagement, or what we call the principles of reaction. So this is where we see a massive shift in your role as the teacher. We're moving completely away from the traditional sage on the stage who just hands out all the answers, right? Instead, you become the guide on the side. Your new principles of reaction mean you're monitoring, you're asking guiding questions, and you're offering scaffolding, but only when they actually need it. Most importantly, you are intentionally rewarding the process of teamwork, not just giving out gold stars for the right answer. And because you've taken that step back, the students, well, they have to step up. They aren't passive receivers anymore. They're active collaborators. They have to exchange ideas, help their peers, and solve problems as a unit. The real beauty of this principle of reaction is that it builds this incredible web of interdependence. An individual's success is now directly tied to their group's success. Okay, part 3, the execution, exploring the syntax and phases of the lesson. Now, syntax is really just a fancy pedagogical word for your step-by-step game plan. This table acts as our chronological narrative, broken down into 8 clear phases. It starts super simple in phases 1 and 2. You give a manageable task and form pairs. But the magic really starts happening in phase 3, as these pairs observe and classify information together. By phases 4 and 5, that micro-collaboration goes macro when pairs present to the entire class. Now, do not skip over phases 6 and 7. This is absolutely crucial. This is where pairs explicitly reflect on how well they actually work together. And finally, phase 8 brings us to the final academic conclusions. And that brings us to our final section, the results and learning outcomes. We can actually categorize these learning outcomes into 2 distinct buckets. First up are the instructional effects. These are your planned, deliberately targeted academic goals. And the source data is super clear here. This model actively boosts academic concept mastery. Think about it. By forcing students to explain concepts to each other, you're naturally triggering higher-order thinking and much more advanced problem-solving skills. Plus, because learning suddenly becomes this highly social, engaging activity, overall motivation to learn sees a massive spike. But then we have the nurturant effects. And honestly, this is where the real magic is, and arguably what matters most for long-term, lifelong success. These are the beautiful, organic byproducts of the model. You didn't write learn empathy on your daily syllabus, right? But by forcing students to navigate joint responsibility, they inherently develop teamwork skills, deep empathy, and higher self-esteem. They're learning communication, leadership, and mutual respect just by participating in the system. It's the hidden genius of the whole Partners in Learning blueprint. So, what's the bottom line here? This framework proves it has incredible dual value. It is highly effective at lifting academic success, yes, but it does so while actively building a mutually supportive community. And as a totally natural side effect of that high engagement and peer accountability, educators find that this model drastically reduces negative classroom behavior. When everyone is involved and accountable to their peers, the disruptions just naturally fade away.
This quote just perfectly captures the essence of everything we've unpacked today. It's not just about memorizing facts. It is about shaping capable, empathetic, and motivated human beings. I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Look at your own environments today, your classrooms, your teams, your workplaces. How might shifting from a culture of isolated competition to a framework of true, structured collaboration completely transform your own learning community? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to get out there and start building your own collaborative blueprints.